In this video, I want to demonstrate how to use Puzzilla.org to find people to take to the temple, and also to find people who are missing from Family Search and add them to Family Search. I'll continue to emphasize the interview as part of any process that you use in terms of investigating people who may need to go to the temple. So what you'll do if you want to use Puzzilla.org is put in your address bar, Puzzilla.org, and once you arrive, you'll sign in either here or up here. And when you sign in, what you're doing is giving Puzzilla the right or privilege to be able to access your data on Family Search. So once you have done that and signed in, it'll look something like this. You will be this root person, and then your parents and your grandparents, your grandmother. You can see the pink reddish ones are women and the blue ones are men. It'll go as many generations out as you want, up to 12, and you can change those here. You can also change the root person if you want to. So like if you're trying to help somebody else, you can just get the number of that person and put that number in, and then that's who will be down here in the root location. As you do this, probably the most valuable thing to do is to use the descendancy research idea, where you try to go back and find somebody born around 1800. So as I come up, you'll notice these people aren't far enough back, but this outer row is just right. I've got most of them right around 1800. This one's born in 1797, 1808, 1789, 1796. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick Sarah Hale. When I click on her, her card freezes, allowing me to be able to come down and do whatever I want with it. At this moment, what I want to do is click the Descendants tab and view the descendants of Sarah. So what I've done is go back to somebody born in 1800, and now I'm going to turn around and look at that person's descendants as they come closer and closer to me. So I've got Sarah in the middle, and this yellow line tells me how Sarah is related to me. So this is my grandmother right there. And all of these other people are descendants of Sarah. The thing that you want to do to try to find people that may need ordinances using Puzzilla is to try to look and see people that don't have any children. So this person has a lot of children, this person has a lot of children, same here, but this person doesn't. So the question that you ask in your mind is, do they have a spouse? If they do have a spouse, why didn't they have children? And one of the things that you can notice, a lot of these people have little yellow dots. The yellow dot means that they died before they were 16. And so if they have a yellow dot, you know that there's a real good reason why there aren't any children coming down from them. They were too young to get married. As long as I'm describing these other things that are on there, the gray dots tell you that they were born in the last 110 years. And so again, you're probably not going to spend a lot of time on these people, because even if you were able to find enough information to take them to the temple, you wouldn't have the right to do so. So as we come to these people, we want to find somebody that doesn't have a yellow dot, so they live to be beyond 16 years of age. And if I go ahead and click on this Louisiana, you'll see that she lived to be 35 years old. That's plenty of time to get married and have some children. So in my mind, I'm saying, Louisiana, were you married? Did you have children? And the only way that I can really determine that is to click the View in Family Tree, so that I can open up her person page and begin to investigate her as an individual. If I click on that, her person page opens, and I can quickly look it over and notice that, wow, I've got really good information in terms of both her birth and her death. I've got complete dates, complete places, and they're formatted correctly. That's nice. As I continue to scroll down and look at the family, I have a husband. I didn't know for sure if I was going to or not, but they didn't have any children, or I mean, there aren't any children listed. My hope is that they did have children, and I'm going to be able to find those children and list them. The parents are, nicely portrayed here, and the sisters and brothers look like they're not duplicates of each other. So this is a good family. My goal is to add children. Now, as I look, I've got 3 sources for Louisiana, And if I click on what those sources are, I've got an 1860 census for her, and so she would be 7 years old and living in the house of her parents at that time. That's not going to tell me anything about her children. Births and christenings sometimes are her children or it's her, and you don't know until you open it. So if I click on this one, it is for Louisiana. It's her. It gives me her birth date and her parents, and that's nice. It verifies and proves her birth information, but again, it doesn't help me with how many children that she might have had. The other one is the same. I've got the birth date and the parents, but it doesn't help me find any of her children. So I'm going to want to go back to her details page and ask myself, is there something that would tell me about her children? Well, if she is, let's look at when she was married. She marries Evan in 1873. So what I would like is to get an 1880 census, because an 1880 census that has Louisiana and Evan on it would also have the first 7 years of their marriage, and very likely be able to show us some kids that were born. And so that's what I'm going to look for. I'm going to come up here. Now I could go into Family Search, and the nice thing about finding a record in Family Search is that you then are able to attach it more easily, and it empowers the search engine better. But I'm going to go ahead and click on the Ancestry link, and you'll notice that I've got a Find a Grave reference right at the beginning, and I don't know for sure what else I will find, but I'm intrigued because as I look at this Find a Grave record, I see that the dates of the birth and the death are the same, and that I've got the same spouse and the same father. So this is about my person. Luzanne versus Louisiana. I can sure see how they end up calling her Luzanne throughout her life. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and you'll see that we get some really nice indexed information. I've even got a picture of her tombstone. It's going to give me her birth date and death date and her husband's birth date and death date. And if I come back here, I can notice that Evan was born in 54 and died in 1911. And if I come to this Evan, I've got him in 54, 1911. There's no doubt that this is my family. And so what I want to do is, if I take a look at Luzanne, I'm verifying the birth and death information, but I'm also excited because children are listed here. I've got 3 children that are listed. And so any one of them that I want to click onto, I will get what was pasted on about them. And so I've got this Fannie Ellen Smith, and I've got a nice birth date and birthplace. I've even got a picture of her, and I've got a picture of her tombstone. So this is really exciting, and all I'm going to need to do now is to come back to Louisiana, and I'm going to come down and add a child, and when I add the child, I'll put in the information that I've got here on the Find a Grave information, and then once I've added it all, what will come up sometimes is we may have somebody in Family Search that seems to match your person. Is this a match? And I either will pick a person that's in Family Search, or I will say, nope, none of those people match, create a new person. And so then once I create that person, then I can give them an interview and take them to the temple. One other thing before I leave this, I might just mention, once you determine for sure that you've got a source that is matching your person, then you can look over here, and these sources are all that much better in terms of being a match for your individual. And so we were excited about being able to, so this is for her, but if I wanted to come to Luzanne, I've got different birth records here, and I was mentioning how I wanted to get the 1880 census. Here's an 1880 census, and here's an 1870 census. Now I don't know for sure that it's accurate and that it is my family, but if I were to click in there and open it up, I might very well find that it is. And since they were married in 73, I'm not overly interested in the 1870 census. This one has her lists as Lucinda, instead of the Louisiana or whatever. But I'm just wanting to give you an idea that these sources over here are strongly correlated with the source that you select here. And so always remember to look over at this. This is a secondary sifting that's all the more powerful from the sifting that you have when you go to the or the first page when you first come to Ancestry. That's one thing that you could do to add somebody to Family Search from the view that you've got here, is to find somebody that needs children, go and open their person page and hopefully find information like I did about Louisiana. Obviously, I need to add sources and then add people, and when I got done, she would have at least 3 descendants here that would be listed, and those 3 descendants either already had their ordinances done because there was a match someplace in Family Search, or I would be able to do the ordinances at that point. And so that's an exciting way to find people who may need ordinances. The second thing I want to show you is that if you have the paid version of Puzzilla, you're able to do some more things that you don't get to do with the free version. And the paid version is available in family history centers. It's also available on campus for BYU-Idaho students. And so, or you can purchase the paid version. And so with this one, if I click hints, all of these orange dots tell me that people who have orange dots by them have record hints or something similar that will assist me in researching for them. That's an exciting benefit. But the one I wanted to show you is there's a ordinances tab, and if I click that, now I've already had it populate so that it would be quicker, but it'll start down here and it'll work its way around, and sometimes it'll take 30 seconds or so to get all of them figured out. But everybody that has a green dot by them needs ordinances according to what we've got in Family Search at the time. And so I wanted to just show you, I've got several that I could pick from obviously, but this one is Andy Halshay, and I wanted to go ahead and click on her and view her in Family Tree. And you can see that Andy, if I wanted to right now, I could request her ordinances and they're ready to go. They would let me take her to the temple. But I never do that. I always interview a person. And so with her, I only have one source, and that source is a 1930 census record. And you see that Andy is a female. That makes us, Andy's not that female-ish of a name, but she's still single at this stage and living with Martin and Virginia and Ivan and Dale. And so when I come back to the details page, I've got Martin and Virginia and Ivan and Dale. And I wonder if when they were putting in information about Martin and Virginia, one of the sources they found was the 1930 census record, and were able to add some children. And from those children, they were able then from that census record to give us a birth date and a birthplace. And that's really all that we know about Andy. So I would love to have a little bit more information before I took her to the temple. I wouldn't mind finding death information. I wouldn't mind finding if she had a spouse. And so all of that's part of the interview that I'm going to give her before I take her to the temple. Now, once again, our luck isn't good and we don't have any record hints. So I'll go ahead and click the Ancestry link. And as Ancestry opens up, the first thing that I have is that 1930 census that I already have attached to her. But the next one down is a 1910 census, and this one's intriguing because I've got an Amy with Virginia and Martin as parents. And so this is going to be my family because I've got an Ivan as a sibling, and you'll remember that we had in the family Ivan, and we had Martin and Virginia as parents. And so this 1910 census that I've got here is going to be very helpful. And what it makes me wonder is I look at it and I say, wait, there's no Andy, but there's an Amy. And that makes a lot more sense because Amy's a much more girly name than Andy is. And so all of a sudden it causes me to think maybe the indexer made a mistake in the 1930 census that we have added before and that we based her naming on. And so if I go ahead and open this up and I view the census record itself, just to check out my indexer, if I want to make this bigger, I'll go ahead and just make it so that we can see it for sure. And I want to come over to our family here. And you can see that what we've got is Martin and Virginia and Andy and Ivan and Dale. But the problem is, maybe it's, now I'm asking myself if that indexer was wrong. And so if I look up here to Herman, look at that M. And if I take that M and I come down here to Amy, that's the same M. And then I notice that the G in Virginia just came down and coincidentally matched up to that last line on the M and made it look like a D when it really wasn't a D, it was just Amy. And so I've got Amy G, you know, and there is no Andy. And so then I come back here and I say to myself, if I need to rename Andy Amy, and then Amy G will be able to be taken to the temple. And I think Amy's going to respond a lot better in the spirit world to having her name be Amy than Andy. However, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. As we all do our part to contribute to these things, somebody put in Andy from that 1930 census, but Amy was already there, and it's Amy G. Now, you wouldn't merge these two, Andy and Amy, but once you change the name of this Andy to an Amy, you would merge these two, of the Amy G. And I mean, I'm not saying that you definitely would, but you very likely would. And if you did merge these two people, you notice that this Amy has had her ordinances done. So this is one of those times where you thought you were going to take somebody to the temple, but you end up not taking them to the temple, and you end up saving yourself the time that you would have spent baptizing and confirming, then going back and doing an initiatory, and then the 2 to 3 hours for the endowment, and then coming back and sealing to parents. You save yourself all that time, and you save the temple all that time as well, so that they're not redoing an ordinance that's already been done that you could have avoided had you just bothered to interview the person. So hopefully that illustrates some of the power of interviewing, as well as the power of using Puzzilla to be able to find people to take to the temple.